Howdy folks, and welcome to the Hillbilly Kitchen. Today we're going to be making the best fried pickles you ever ate. Now, fried pickles are really pretty easy to make, and I know the Super Bowl's coming up and everybody's looking for stuff to have at their Super Bowl parties. These are good for that. They're good for any game day thing, cookouts, if you're having hot dogs, hamburgers, or an appetizer, even for a big special occasion dinner. Just whatever. They're just a good snack, a good something to do while folks are waiting to eat. So what you need is some pickles. Any dill pickle that you like. Pick a dill pickle that you like, because remember, we're making the best fried pickle you ever ate. Now, I'm going to bake the best one I ever ate, but I'm going to tell you how to get them the way you like them. So pick a pickle that you like, and you want to drain them and dry them. You need a little something to make some batter out of. Now, if you like the ones that have a little bit of cornmeal in the batter, I think Zaxby's has some cornmeal in their batter. Use a self-rising cornmeal mix. That's half flour and half cornmeal. I'm just using self-rising flour. If you don't have self-rising, then you need to add baking powder and a tiny bit, just a tiny bit of salt, because your pickles are already salty, to your flour mixture. If you can't find the cornmeal mix, do half flour, half cornmeal. But I've only got about 3/4 of a cup here. And I've got about 3/4 of a cup of milk and an egg that I'm going to make my batter out of. Now, I've also got just a little bit of my pickle juice that I left over, and I'm going to add that into my milk. You don't necessarily have to do this, but it's nothing extra, and that's going to turn my milk into buttermilk, kind of, and it's also going to add a lot of flavor to my batter. The secret, one of the secrets is get your pickles good and dry. Another secret to super crispy foods is corn starch. If you like fried foods and you want them crispy, put them in corn starch before you batter them. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all of our fairly dry pickles here, and I have dried these a couple of times and they still have moisture in them, but I'm going to put them in a bowl with my corn starch, and I've got, oh, I don't know, 1/3 of a cup to a 1/2 a cup. And a 16-ounce jar of pickles. I didn't even tell you all that. And we're going to toss them. But what you want to do is you just want to get your pickles all coated with the cornstarch like that. That will make them crispy. And if you watched our onion ring video, we did the same thing with our onion rings. And in fact, if you want an onion ring video for your party, I'll be sure and share that. I'm going to beat up my egg just a little bit before I add it in here. And I'm going to add in my milk that I put my pickle juice with. And I'm going to stir this here up. Now I'm going to turn my pan on, and I'm going to let it start heating. And I'm kind of going to use my pan as a timer for how long to let the rest of this stuff go. Because taking a little time here is another one of the secrets. Season these the way that you like them. I'm using some black pepper and some red spice. You can put cayenne pepper in them. You can put any kind of seasoning in them that you like. Anything hot or spicy. If you want them hot or spicy, make them as hot as you want. I said cayenne pepper, hot sauce, anything like that, you can add it into the batter. You can also do Italian seasoning in here if you like the ones that are kind of have Italian seasoning in them. Some oregano and stuff like that. This has a little bit of heat, but not too much. I do recommend, at the very least, you put a little black pepper in them. And it's just to taste, as are all of the spices. You can put garlic and oh gosh, onion powder. I mean, you know, you could put a little bit of anything in them. A little onion powder would be very good in them. All right. Now, once your pan gets hot, you can add your oil to it. You do want to wait until your pan gets kind of hot before you even add your oil. That will help keep them from sticking. You don't need a ton. I'm gonna put, I don't know, it's a little less than 1/2 inch. You do want to have the bottom of your pan covered good. And you're gonna let that sit there until it gets good and hot. Kind of mix your batter up a little bit, mix your spices in it. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's go back to our pickles. Kind of make sure they're all separated there. You don't have any great big huge lumps of pickles left. That cornstarch should kind of separate them. And you might as well get ready to get your hands a little dirty, because that just makes it easier. This bowl is kind of small, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour my batter over top of them. And now we want to make sure they're all separated again. Now the cornstarch is going to stay on our pickles even though we've dumped them in this batter. And what we want to do is we want to make sure we let them sit in here for a few minutes before we add them to our very hot oil. And we want to let our oil get very hot. We want it sizzling. I never use a thermometer to check my oil with. I always use a little bit of my batter. And when the batter is sizzling, then I know I can add whatever I'm frying. Letting it sit, whatever you're frying, whether it's pickles or onion rings or fried green tomatoes or whatever it is, chicken, letting it sit in the batter for a few minutes will make the batter stick to it after it's fried. If you don't do that, your batter's going to fall off, and then you're just going to have a pickle with no batter, no flavor, no crisp, big crunchy shell, none of that. So let it sit for a few minutes before you add it to your pan, and that way it'll stick. When we did our onion rings and when we did our tomatoes and all that stuff, we took them out of the batter and let them drip on something first. I don't do that with pickles because they're small and it kind of makes a mess, and you don't really have, I mean, with them you don't have to let the batter kind of set and dry on it a little bit. As long as you let it sit in here for a few minutes, it will stick to it. It will be plenty thick enough, and it won't fall off when it's done cooking. To test your oil, just drop a tiny bit of batter in it, and oh yeah, it's sizzling. You see the bubbles all around it? That's how you know it's hot enough. If you don't see bubbles around it, it's not hot. Now these are going to fry super fast. You're going to have to be ready to flip them and take them out quick. And we're going to drain them on a rack. When I'm frying stuff like this that I want to stay crispy, I always dry it on a rack. That the air going around it helps keep it crisp. If you drain it on paper towels, it kind of tends to make it soggy. So kind of get down in your bowl of pickles and make sure each pickle is well coated as you drop it in the pan to fry it. Okay, you don't want to overfill it because you want to leave room to flip them. And as you flip them and remove them, you want to add more. That will regulate the temperature in your pan. And fry them until they are as brown as you like them. Like these here that I just flipped, they're flipped way too soon. They're not nearly brown enough, but you can leave them in there and flip them again. And you won't be able to flip them at all until they have cooked enough to release from the bottom of the pan. If you let your pan get hot and then you add your oil, as they get done on the bottom, they will start to float, and then you can flip them. And they'll flip real easy. They won't stick, and it won't tear off your breading. Just wait until they're floating before you start flipping them. Okay, you can see how every one that I have in here is floating. And I have turned them all, well, no, I hadn't turned them all. I've turned several of them at least once, because you want to keep an eye on them as they cook. They will cook very fast, and they will burn very fast. Keep an eye on the temperature of the oil in your pan as you take them out and put them in. You might have to adjust your temperature. Frying them is fairly labor intensive. I mean, you have to watch it every second. You have to stay on top of it. But they fry really quick because all you're doing is just browning the batter. You obviously don't have to cook the pickle. It's just the batter that you want to get nice and crisp. So, you know, just keep an eye on them. And anytime after they start floating, they're technically done. But you want to get them to that point where they are the right color so that they will be nice and crisp and visually appealing, because for especially stuff like fried pickles, the way they look is important when you're eating them. People want them all separated, and that's why we're going to drain them on the rack, and they want them all the correct color, and that texture needs to be nice and even and crisp. The only other really tip I can think of to tell you is use 2 forks for this. If you take the fork that you've got in your pickles that you're separating them with and that you mixed them with and all that stuff, and you stick it in your frying pan, the batter, moving it from one to the other, is going to really build up on it. Okay, some of these I think are starting to look pretty good. And just scoop them out and put them on your rack to cool and drain. And after you've scooped a few out, add a few more in, because you want to keep that temperature under control. You don't want it getting too hot. If you completely empty your pan out, your oil will get hot really quick, and then as you add new pickles, they will burn because the oil is too hot. So you don't want that to happen. I don't even know who's playing in the Super Bowl this year, and I don't know most years, so I'm not having a party, but I certainly hope y'all enjoy your party. Psalms 126:3 says, "The Lord has done great things for us, and we are glad." There are lots of verses in the Bible about parties and celebrations and festivals, and I certainly think that celebrating life and gathering with friends, no matter what excuse you use for the occasion, is good. Just while you're celebrating the Super Bowl, remember you are still a Christian, so do things in moderation. And don't forget to thank God for all of the good that He has done. For the fellowship at the party, for the house that you're celebrating in, for the people who are there, for the fellowship that you are enjoying, and for the joy that you have. If they stick together like that, you can just take your fork and break them apart. It's not a big deal. And they'll still even have a nice crisp edge on them when they're done. Now you can hear how my grease popping is picking up there. That's because I don't have enough pickles in my pan. It's going to get too hot. So you want to add some pickles quick and probably turn that heat down just a hair until your oil cools back down. If you listen real close, you can actually hear these. They have a very nice crunch to them. Well, now you have all the secrets for making perfect fried pickles, and you even know how to substitute ingredients and add seasonings to get the flavor that you like the best, so that you can make the best fried pickle you've ever eaten. And I truly do hope that all y'all who are celebrating this weekend with your family and watching the ball game, you have a great time. If you haven't already, please don't forget to click like and subscribe before you leave. And until next time, remember to put God first.